Dear students, welcome to the knowledge series. Under the course EC407 Computer Communication, we are going to discuss the area on media access control. Before we talk about the media access control, you are aware that it is a part of a data link layer, and data link control, its basic service is to ensure that a reliable network data communications it has to take place with respect to the frame, because in the data link layer we try to create frame. So the frame which is being generated in the data link layer, there may be a chances that that frame may get deteriorated due to the heavy noise in the channel. So that's why this media access control plays a very important role in the data link layer of the OSI model. Before we go further about this media access control, the slide which you are witnessing right now, that slide is a very important slide. However, this word media access control is also termed as medium access control. A media access control is a network and data transfer policy that determines how the data is to be transmitted between the two computer terminals. So that is what this particular media access is stating. If you are using a network cable, then how the particular policy is being adopted so that the data can be transmitted from the sender to the receiver. Moreover, the media access control methods act like a traffic light. That means based on the traffic light, the flow of the number of traffic in a particular lane is being controlled, so that there will not be any congestions. So in the same way, when the data is being passed based on the protocol of the media access control, it tries to prevent the deal of a frame collisions. That is what been seen in the case of a media access control. And as I have stated that this is a part of the data link layer of the open system interconnection, that is the OSI reference model. And the important factor is that when a computer communicate using a certain mode, say point-to-point configuration or a multi-point configuration, this media access control ensures that a proper data is being transmitted in an appropriate way, in an appropriate time, so that at the receiver side there will not be any error occurrence or there will not be any lapses with respect to the datas which may be transmitted from the transmitter side, and thereby the receiver will not find any difficulty in recovering that particular data. So under the media access protocol, you can see that there are certain terminology is being shown here with respect to the media access protocol. So this topology is being shown like this one. Is the media access protocol is being categorized into a random access protocol, control access protocol, and a channelizations protocol. You have to remember that a media access or a multiple access or a medium access protocol is divided into a access. That means you are randomly accessing the particular station, and that facility is being or that feature is being extended by the media access control. It also see that the communication is being controlled between the sender and the receiver. It also see that a proper channelizations is being or a channel with respect to the given bandwidth is being planned, so that the medium can able to communicate with the sender and the receiver. As again I want to state one more point is that if when you see the data link layer, the data link layer as per the OSI layer, from the bottom side it is comes as we consider as a second layer. But this data link layer, if you try to study more deeper, you will find that it consists of a two sub layers, you can say. That means if this is a media access control, you can divide that one into two layers. The one layer is a bottom side is a media access control, and another is a logical link control. So that is how this particular layer is being defined. So that's why we state it as a media access control and the logical link control. So under this particular case, what exactly this the logical link does? The logical link does the control, or it is a control link that is to see that a link exists between the sender and receiver is in a control way, and also try to see that there is a proper frame synchronization is being formed. In case if there is a error is being detected, it also try to see them, it try to control that particular error, or you can say that it can also control the flow of the data. That means in a control way the logical link does it. I repeat again, the logical link and see that how the data is to be sent, how the particular synchronization of the frame has to maintain, and how to detect the error as well as how to correct the error, including the flow control. That does by the logical link control. Whereas the MAC protocols or the media access protocol, it try to handle the policy that is to determine that how the data is to send. So when we see that controlling is taking place in the case of a LLC, to see that everything goes in a smooth fashion, but the way the data has to send, it is being handled by the MAC. That means if you are using a LAN network, then or you are using a wireless network, in both the case the media access protocol work in a two different methods. So in case of a multiple terminal, if a multiple terminal is connected to a network line, suppose assume that you are considering a bus, and over which you are considering a bus network, over which you are considering several computer terminals. So these computer terminals will be sharing the link. Then if a data is transmitted, so every terminal want to access the data. So every time the terminal is accessing the data, there is a chances that the data may get collided. So and if the data is collided, that means the data gets wasted. So media access control access protocol try to see that if the particular data is getting wasted, how it has to control, how it has to monitor, so that the effective way the data handling should take place. And as you are aware that in our earlier video series where I have shared that in case if the data is lost, you have to see that you have to resend the data, and for that different control methods is being used, like acknowledgement, NACK, ACQ, all these particular handshaking signals is being used. So let us start with the random access protocol. So in this particular protocol, no stations has a priority. That means if I am taking a bus, and on the bus A, B, C, D, 4 station is connected to the common bus. So in that case, any terminal has their individual way they can access the particular bus. So there is no priority that A has to come first, B has to come first, or C has to come first, or D has to come first. Any station can send the data on the medium at any time. So that is what we try to see in the random access. You are randomly accessing that particular medium or the line over which you have to send the information or a data. So each station has the right to the medium without being controlled by the other stations. So A cannot be controlled by B or other. A can access the same medium, B can access the same medium. Every station will access in a randomly fashions. The control access protocol. In a control access protocol, what happens is that the station consult with one another to find that which station has a right to say A, B, C, D is there. So they will be consulting to each other and try to see that whenever which station has a priority to access, so they will be allowing that particular station to access. So that means there is a common understanding between the systems. So that is what we try to see in the case of a control access protocols. So in the control access protocol, a station cannot send unless it has an authority or authorized by the other station. That means there should be an understanding between all the station, and every station should authorize that this particular station should go first, then the next one. So that is mean a controlled access. Here it is a uncontrolled access, here it is a controlled access. The third one is a channelization protocol. Channelizations is basically a medium access methods in which based on the available bandwidth of the link, either it can share in a time mode or a frequency mode or in the code mode, so that every station can be given a preference based under any one of these particular methods, so that the access of the channel is possible. So this is what we see under the media access protocol. This is one of the important questions normally appears in the university exams. So we have seen the media access protocol. Now we will go one by one all these components, so that your concept will be clear in this case. So we go with the first one is Aloha. Now Aloha, this was basically designed for the wireless LAN, this Aloha, and it was one of the contribution from the University of Hawaii, and that is from the USA, early in 1970s, where the researchers, scholars, professors, they developed a particular protocols, and in this case multiple stations can transmit a data at the same time through the media without interference or a collision. That means just like you have seen in the case of it is a random access protocol, all these things we are going to talk. So automatically, randomly they are transmitting this one. So these Aloha are two type. One is a pure Aloha, another is a slotted Aloha. That is a two type of Aloha you have to remember. Now if you see this particular figure, you can see that there is a road is there, or a line is drawn with respect to A, B, C, D, E, F, different sending stations. So they are sending on a particular road or a particular lane, it is transmitting. So they are transmitting on a particular lane. Now you have to see one more thing is that when they are sending, there should not be any collision. So that's why they try to see that even they are sending using this Aloha, they maintain the concept of a random access protocols. So the pure Aloha was developed by Norman Amberson. So the Norman, when he developed this particular concept way back in 1970. He allowed the concept with respect to this pure aloha, so that every stations can transmit a data checking the status of the channel. That means before sending the station will try to see the particular channel is free or not, and based on that the station will try to see. So that means it is just like they are seeing the neighbors. Just think that they are seeing the neighbors. Okay, no neighbor here. A is sending, so at that time nobody else is sending. So A is started from here. B was started much earlier than A. So at that time no other station was there. C has transmitted much ahead of B. D has transmitted but on a wrong time. It was it has D has transmitted much ahead, so it has went ahead. E has transmitted slowly, but after a particular point E has tried that there is an overlapping of E frame and C frames. So here the collisions will take place. So this is the point where the actual collisions is being taking place. So if a collision is taking place, then this particular frame has to resend. So when a station sends a data, it waits for an acknowledgement. So that is a normal protocols, and if the acknowledgement is not received at in a given allotted times, so the station will randomly has a one set of timers, say a back of timer TB, and after that particular timer it will again resend. So that means you send a data, after that you wait for an acknowledgement. So so there is a time difference is the sending and receiving. So that based on that timer and a little above that timer you set it, and within that timer if the acknowledgement is not received, then it is going to retransmit the data. So different stations wait for a different amount of times, and based on the probability the further collisions is being determined. So in the case of a pure aloha, the throughput is maximized because frame of a uniform length, you can see that the frame of a uniform length is being sent. So this is what we see in the case of a pure aloha, the uniform length is being mentioned. Now in this case the vulnerability or a vulnerable time is nothing but a frame transmission time, that is twice the frame transmission time, because it is sending and waiting for the acknowledgement. So the throughput in this case is expressed as G into exponential of minus 2 into G, and in this case the maximum throughput is 18% for a G if you consider as 0.5. Now G means it is indicates the number of stations that want to transmit the frame in a given transmission time. So that is what we see in the case of a pure aloha. Now we go to the next, that is a slotted aloha under the class of this aloha. Now in the case of a slotted aloha, actually this was introduced by Robert in the way back in 1972. So that was the thing in the case of a slotted aloha. So in the case of a pure aloha, it was developed by Norman Abramson. So that is the case with respect to the pure aloha. So in the case of a slotted aloha, what they tried to improvise the limitation of this pure aloha. So what exactly they have done is that the Robert he proposed to divide the entire span of the transmission with respect to a discrete interval of a time slot. You can see that there is a divisions in terms of the entire transmission period into small time slot, and the data is only allowed at the beginning. That means at this particular point only the data is transmitted. See, at this point data cannot be transmitted in the middle. At the starting at the starting point only it is going to start. If it starts, it will start from this particular point. So that is how the data is being transmitted. It does not allow the allow to transmit the data at the random instance. That means if this has started immediately, the other one is started from here. No, it is not, or from the back. No, it is. It has to follow the link or the slot time pattern. And if a station miss out the allowed time, so it must wait, and for the next slot only it will retransmitting. So in this case the probability of the collision is reduced. So it is a better as compared to the pure ALOA. If you look across the vulnerable times, it is equal to the frame transmission times, but in the case of a pure, it is 2 times the frame transmission time. Now the throughput in this case is defined as g into exponential of minus g. So here in this case the maximum throughput is equal to 37%, whereas in the case of a pure it is 27%. So that is what we try to see in the case of a slotted ALOA. Now slotted ALOA is somewhat better than the pure ALOA, as the probability of the collision in this case is less. So this is what we see in the case of ALOA. Now we go to the next area. This is very important from the angle. Every university exam they talk about the next 3 different concepts, but we can consider as a 2 concept with respect to the carrier sense under the random access protocol. Now carrier sense, what exactly means? See, there is a 3 station is being shown. So this station is accessing this channel or this link or this path or this medium to transmit its data. That is known as a carrier sense. Multiple access. This station is also this station is accessing. This station is also simultaneously accessing. So that is known as a multiple access. Now both the station is accessing, and when the data is transmitted by this side and this one is transmitting to this side, then at this point you can see that there is a collision is being detected. So under this particular case of a collisions detections, we are using a particular terminology that is known as a CSMA/CD. So CSMA actually stands for carrier sense multiple access. So in our real time we are using a communications not from a point to point, rather in a multi-point scenario we are transmitting the information over a network. So in the case of a carrier sense multiple access, you can see here carrier sense multiple access, actually it is a network protocol that is listed to sense the network signals or the carrier or the medium before transmitting any data. That means this carrier sense is of a medium is being accessed by the different systems, so that it can able to transmit over the medium in a proper way. So in this case the CSMA is implemented based on the Ethernet network. So it is a wired network, say IEEE 802.3. So in the case of a IEEE 802.3 conditions, so we are using Ethernet LAN network situations. So here you can try to see that A, B, C, D, there are 4 stations is being shown over here, and a station A want to send a data. So when a station A want to send a data, it is first going to sense the medium. So so you can try to see that when a data is first of all, when the station A was looking for a medium, it find that the medium is free, and it tried to send the data. So it is sending a data because of the ideal condition of the medium over which the data it has planned to send. By the time the data has moved, it reaches to this particular point without the knowledge of A, the B start accessing the media. So before this data arrives here, media find that okay, it is free here. So by that time B want to send the data, this data comes here. You can find that there may chance of a collisions. So this is one scenario it is being stating. Now by the time the same things if you repeat, by the time data comes here, before it reaches here, C started accessing the channel and find that it is free, it starts sending. But by the time the C starts sending the data, this data also, and it finds a collision. This same phenomena you can find in the case of a D. So by that time the second station which requests to send data, and if and it sends the ideal medium, then in that particular scenario you can find that the collisions of a data from a different station exist with respect to the station A data. So in the case of a CSMA case, it requires that the E station first check the medium before sending so that it can decrease the chance of a collisions. So there are different protocol is there for that one. Now here we are explaining what exactly the CSMA means, so that you can understand that when a 2 or more station want to send their information, then it has to see that that particular medium is accessed under the protocol of a data link layer under the case of a medium access as well as in the case of a LLC. So in the case of a CSMA, as I have stated here, you can see that this much section is a vulnerable period. Vulnerable period means this is the time for a propagation. In this propagation, no other station should interfere. If it is interfere, it is a vulnerable times. So because this is the time for the propagation of a data for a the same thing, if station A has to send this much data, so this much propagation delay it has to access. So this is the point where the receiver is going to receive it. So that is what we have shown in the case of a CSMA. Now if you want to see further with respect to CSMA, CSMA has a 4 access mode. One is one persistence methods, non-persistence method, and a p-persistence method. So let's see this particular case with respect to one persistence method, non-persistence method, p-persistent method, and one more is that is a o persistence methods. Now in the case of a one persistence method, actually the node sends the channel, and if it is ideal it will send that data. Otherwise it continuously keep on checking the medium for whether it is ideal or whether it can able to transmit the data with the probability equal to 1. So that's why it is termed as a 1 stands for the probability. So one persistence methods. So if you try to see this one, the channel is accessing by a station. Every time the channel is accessing, and if the channel is busy, it will go back again, it will access. By the time it is idle, it will send the data to the next ahead stations. So here you can see this one is being represented is that this is a time mode. Here this is a busy channel. Assume that this is a busy channel. Every time the station is sensing, it is finding that there is a busy. By the time stations find that there is no busy at this particular point, then it will transmit. So this is a time. So time for continuously sensing, it is also going towards the right direction. So at this particular point, it find that the channel is free. So from here to here, the channel was free. That means station was sleeping. By the time station wake up, it find that the channel is busy. That is a dark shade. And by the time this point the channel was free, it has transmitted. So this is known as a one persistence methods. The next is a non-persistence method. Non-persistence methods in this particular case, actually the node sends the channel. If it is idle, it starts to send the data. Otherwise, it checks the medium after a random amount of a time, not continuously. Here you can see it is continuously. A term is being written that continuously. But here this is not a continuous. That means it has searched, then it will wait for some time, and then it will search. Then again you wait for some time, it will search. But if you train that particular channel using a machine learning, then if the channel habit or the channel practice, if it is being analyzed based on the machine learning data, then automatically these non-persistence methods will be very effective, because it allows the station to go back to sleep mode, and it will wake up whenever it want to sense. So here you can try to see this one. A station channel is want to sense. If it find a busy, it is waiting randomly, and after a certain time it will sense. So here it is not continuous, whereas here in this case it is continuous, and once it is free, it is going further. So this is what we see here. This figure and this figure, if you see, it is almost all same. The only difference is that here it is a continuous arrow, it is being shown, it is a continuously sensing, whereas it is here, it is once it is sensed, after random wait time, it is sensing for the next time. After random wait time, it found that channel is free. Of course, here this much time it is wasted, but let us forget about this loss. But here what is the advantage is that here the systems will not get tired. That is what we try to see in this case. So that's why the system get more ideal time. So that's why it is called as a non-persistence methods practice. And this non-persistence method is basically used for the wireless systems. Now we go with respect to the next method, which is a p-persistence. Now the p-persistence, what exactly it is? The node here in this case sends the medium, and if it is ideal, then it will send the data with a p probability. That is what we see. And if the data is not transmitted within 1 minus p probability, again it will wait and check for the media. And if it is found ideal, then sends with the p probability. It is basically the case with respect to the p-persistence SMA. Now here you try to see. It is sensing a channel. Channel is here it is sensing a channel. Channel is finding an idle. Okay, and if it is busy, it will keep on continuously doing. Now when the channel is idle, it is having a probability outcome. That means in 1 minus p time, if the data is not transmitted, it will try to see that particular situations. So whether a station can transmit the data with respect to the p probability. So but if the data is not transmitted, it is looking for the case with respect to the 1 minus p situation. So it is checking for the probability outcome. Is it greater than p or less than p? So, and it wait for the slot, and if the channel is not free, then it will act as a though the collision has occurred, and to start again. Otherwise, if it is idle, then it is continuously, it follows the path. Now what you understand from here is that it try to see that if the channel is idle, it does not mean that it will try to continuously send the data, because after sending a data, and if there is a collision, it's a wastage. So what it will do, it will send for a p probability of a times, and for a 1 minus p probability of a time, it is not going to send, and it is going to wait and check the medium. So and if the if it is found ideal, it is going to send with the p probability. So that is what it is going to see. You can see that ideal case in a p probability it is sent. Then it is checking for a 1 minus p times. So this is a 1 minus p time where it is going to check. So continuously checking, they the sender found that the sender transmitter find that the medium is free, then it will send. After that, the probability outcome does not allow the allow transmissions. So there is a time slot is there. So after a given time slot, again it is going to transmit. Then after a given time slot, again it is going to transmit. After a given time slot, again it is. After a given time slot, again it is going to transmit. So it will try to check the probability of the medium, and then it will able to transmit. Now, if you try to see the one persistence here, in this case of a one persistence, so with a given probability is equal to 1, it is going to transmit. Whereas in this case, with respect to the other than the 1, the probability value is being considered, and based on that it is transmitted. So it will try to see that higher probability value and 1 minus p probability value it will use for the waiting time, and the remaining probability times it is used for transmitting. So this is what in the case of a PAE persistence CSMA. So that's why it is sensing, sending, it is transmitting, waiting, transmitting, waiting, transmitting, waiting, transmitting, waiting. That is how this particular P persistence CSMA it follow the practice. So that is what we have seen here with respect to this. Now there is a one more method is that is a O persistence. In the case of a O persistence, it is basically actually a superior T of the node conditions. Is this particular form of a transmissions, because in this particular case the medium is idle, and the node wait for its time slot, and then the start then it starts sending the data. So that is the outstanding form of a transmissions. So that is why we categorized into one, non, and then P, and then O persistence methods of CSMA. Now we go to the next, CSMA CD. So it is a carrier send multiple access with collision detections. So D stands for collision detections. So this is the particular figure. You can see that actually in this method a station actually monitor that whether the medium is free to send a particular frame, and if the medium is free, then the transmission it transmit the data for a successful transmission. And once the successful transmission is completed, it will be ready for sending the next data. If the successful transmission is not ready, then it will ask for the resend of that particular data. So if you try to see this figure, here the A sends the first bit. So here you can see that at a given time t1 the A send the first bit, and when the data is sent, B is not trying to look for a medium or want to send that particular interval, whereas C try to access the stations. So when the C see the ideal channel at a time t2, you can see that C is seeing this channel at a time t2. This is the time t2 when C sees, and C sends the data in two directions, one side this, another one this directions. Okay, when C sends this data at a time t2, then C will detect A at a time t3. So here at this particular point, if you take if you try to see actually access, C is going to detect here, because this is the point where it is going to access. So here the collision of a detection and abortions will take place. So here the actual things you can try to see. Now assume that the same C is sending here, then here also collisions will be occurring. So a collision is being detected at this particular point, because this is the point where the A is going to sense the particular collisions, whereas C is going to sense it over here, and that is what this particular point that it is going to detect. Now it is sending these two. Now this is the way the transmission of the C is taking place, but the detection is taking place at this particular. A's transmission is taking place. Detection is at this particular point when A is going to witness this. So C detects A's frames at T3. So that is what we and it is aborted transmission. So the transmission time of a C, it defines with respect to the point of abortions, that is T3 minus the point of a transmission, T3 minus T2, whereas transmission time of A is nothing but T4 minus T1. So this is what we see in the case of a CSMA CD. Now if you try to see the frame transmission time is nothing but you are transmitting this particular case. Here we have seen this is a dotted. Assume that I'm drawing a frame like this structure. So this frame, by the time it reaches here, automatically it will also have the similar form of a triangular end. So this is the propagation times. So this is when I say this is the propagation time, and this is nothing but the frame time. So here in the case of a CSMA CD, you will be finding that throughput is 50% in the if you are using a one persistence, and it is 90% if you are using a non-persistence methods. So this is what we try to see in the case of a CSMA CD and with respect to the class which we are seeing under the case of a random access protocol. Now we try to see the one more figure with respect to the CSMA in the form of a flow chart. Now here also we try to set k is equal to 0 and try to look for a one persistence method, and try to see that whether the transmission is ready for transmission or not, or the medium is idle or not. If the medium is idle, it will transmit and receive. If the medium is not idle, then the collisions will detect. If the collision is not exist, then it will assume that the transmission is successful. If the collision is detected, then that particular signal with the number of attempt, that is k, what we are saying k is equal to 0, the number of attempt has increased by 1, and the maximum attempt time is also set. If it is not reached, then it will further go for a randomly accessing the medium with respect to the power of a k minus 1. So that is the access methods which we have seen earlier video series with respect to this. And based on the back-off time, after waiting for a certain back-off time, it will try to go back here and it will continue that particular process. So this is the back-off time. When you say wait TB time, that is TB minus R into TP. So that is what we in the we see, where R is nothing but a random number we try to choose between 0 to 2 to the power of k minus 1. So that is what we see here, and this particular protocol follows. So starting with the number of attempt, then applying the persistence method, whether one persistent, non-persistent, p persistence method, and then access the medium, and if it is okay, transmission successful. Otherwise it will check and again try to see whether collision occurs. No occur, then it is success at the receiver side. And then if it is collision occurs, then it block the transmissions, then increment the attempt, and if the incremental limit is within the number of times, it will further go for a random selections with respect to the wait time, and then the process continue. So this is what we see in the case of a CSMA CD. Now we go to the next area, that is CSMA CA. CSMA CA stands for Carrier Sense Multiple Access with collision avoidance. So this is a collisions is avoid. Here we try to do the collision avoidance. Previously we tried to see that it is a collisions detections. Here it is a collisions avoidance. Now particularly you see that in the case of 802.11, that is a 11, that is IEEE 3, IEEE 802.11 is nothing but a wireless network standard. And in the case of a wireless protocol for a carrier sensing, it basically operate under the MAC layer. And in the case of a CSMA CD, the collisions after the transmissions, it tries to see that that collision should be prevented just before the transmission happens, not after the transmission the collision avoidance. So a proper care is been taken how the particular collision it has to protect. So it follows one algorithms. So in the case of these algorithms, if you see, the when a frame is actually ready for transmitting, it checks whether the channel is idle. That is the first case it is going to see. And if the channel is busy, the station will wait for the next idle time. And if the channel is idle, then what it is going to do is that it is going to use a interframe gap, that is a IFG. That is what it is going to see and do. And after IFG amount of time after waiting, it will send. And after sending the frame, it will have its own timer. It will start its own timer and wait for the acknowledgement. And within the given time, if the acknowledgement receive it is okay, then it will send the next data. Otherwise, it will resend the data back. So this is a back-off timer, back-off time what we have seen in the previous case with respect to here with respect to the back-off time. So it is waiting for a back-off time and do. So let's see this particular CSMA CA. So here also what we do is that as we have seen that number of attempt is kept as a k is equal to 0, and it tries to see the channel is idle. If it is not idle, it will keep on continuously, or in the either in a one persistent mode or p persistence mode, or in a non-persistent mode it will sense. Then if the idle channel is idle, then it will start the IFC times. As I stated, that IFC is nothing but your interframe gap. So the interframe gap is started, and after that it is going to do the same thing. It is trying to look for a random numbers, and with respect to the random number slot, it tried to send the frame and wait for a certain time interval, and if the acknowledgement is received, success. If it is not, increment the attempt, and then it try to see the maximum number of attempt is reached or not. If not, it go back. So it is using the case with respect to the collisions avoidance. So if you try to see that the collisions avoidance is basically, it try to see with respect to this particular scenario. You can see that first is that it has sensed the channel here, and after the IFC times, again it is trying to see that any collisions possibilities there or not. If the collisions possibility is not there and it is still idle, then it is going to send the data. Here it is sending the data and waiting for the acknowledge, and if it is received, this particular flow chart is giving the idea with respect to the CSMA-CA. So what is the advantage in this case? The CSMA-CA is going to prevent the collisions, because you are going to detect the channel idle conditions before transmissions of the data, and due to the acknowledgement, data is not lost unnecessarily. So because you are getting waiting for the case with respect to the acknowledgement scenario. So that is the one of the important parameters. Whereas collisions, you are in the case of a CD, you are only looking for a collision detections, but not the avoidance scenario. And it tries to if a say collision is occurred, then it is wasting the time. So that's why there is a wasteful of a transmission, and it is much suited for the wireless transmissions. Now the disadvantage is that actually the algorithms look for a long waiting time, and it consume high power. So that's why that is one of the drawback in the case of a CSMA-CA. Now we go to the next point of our discussion, that is the discussion under the control access protocols. So what exactly the control access protocol is means? The control access protocols we categorized into three parts. One is reservations, another is polling, and the third is a token passing. So these are nothing but the case with respect to the control access protocol. So we will see each one separately. So what exactly the this protocol it indicates? So the first is reservations. So in this method, actually stations need to make a reservations before sending a data. That means in this particular figure, the data is sending from this left side to the right side to the left side. Here you can try to see that there are two kinds of period is there. One is a reservation interval, another is nothing but a fixed time length. Sorry, reservation interval means a fixed time length, and second is nothing but a data transmission period, that is a variable time frame. So this is a variable time, and this is a fixed time slot. So data can be of a variable length form is there, or a variable frame is there. So here if there are a M station, then the reservation interval will be divided into M slots. So based on that, the data will be sending. So now here you see this is the 1, 2, 3, 3 station is there, 1, 3 and 4. So that's why this total frame, it was initially divided with respect to the 5 slots. So based on the M station, it will be dividing the slot. So it was initially planned for the 5 slots with respect to 5 data station, but here only 1 station was sending, 3 station was sending, 4th station was sending the data So and this is the case with respect to the different station which is being sending the frames. Now here when the station 1 sending the frame, and here it will be transmitting a 1 bit, and if the no stations like a 2 and 5 is not sending, so it will be shown as a 0 bit. So after receiving in the slot, that is a complete data transmission, the next reservations interval will begin. So here you can see this one is over. So next time slot is there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, out of which the station 1 is transmitting. So this one. Again a next reservation frame is being filled up. So no station is sending. So here actually what you are seeing from the figure is that a station with the 5 stations and a 5 slot reservation frames, and here from the left side is the first interval where you can see the first data is being sent, and are followed by and in this way the 1, 3, 4 is transmitting, and this and thereby the station is every station is maintaining its own methods of using a reservation frame for transmitting a data to the data stations. So that is what we say in the case of reservations. That means you are blocking that station for doing that particular data transmissions. So here you can in the case of reservations, the bandwidth is under bandwidth is not having a much utilizations. So because every time you are going with the reservations practice. Polling, you have already seen in my earlier video series with respect to the polling. In this process, what you can see that just like in the class, the teachers calls the roll number wise the students, and in that order. In certain school, the students who are sitting in that particular order. In that way, in the roll number wise, the student teacher used to communicate. The teacher will be sending a message to a roll number 1, then it will pass on to 2, then 3, like that. So this is a polling methods. Or teacher is calling the number, whichever number comes, whichever number is being called based on that the students' response to the teachers. So here you can try to see that this is a primary station, secondary station. If a primary station want to communicate with the station B, and the same primary station is sending a pole, you can see it is sending a pole to the A, and it is finding the station A is not ready to receive, it will say a negative acknowledgement. Then the primary station will send a pole to B, and it will send a the station is not sorry, in this case a station secondary station is sending a data. If a secondary station is not sending a data, it will send a negative acknowledgement. Now here in this case the secondary station send the data. After receiving the data, primary station send the acknowledgement. So this is one case is that. That means the primary station is polling for knowing the which station is ready to send the data. So that is the one case we try to see. The other case we try to see over here is that here the data flows from this direction to this. Now here the data go from this direction to this. Now here is the primary station is sending a poll to all the station at the same times, and it is trying to select only the station B. So if the station A is don't want to receive, it is not going to respond. At the station B, which is going to ready to receive, then it will send an acknowledgement. After receiving the acknowledgement, it is sending a data, and after receiving a data, it sends an acknowledgement, so that primary station will understand the B has received. So here acknowledgement, it is just a request, clear to send, data, acknowledgement. Same thing is that here it is a positive acknowledgement is being shown. Now in this case, the efficiency, if you try to see, efficiency is nothing but your time required for the transmission of a data divided by time required for the transmission of a data plus polling time. So that is what we see in the case of a polling scenario. Now next is nothing but your the area with respect to the token passing. Now in the case of a token passing scenario, this is also I have discussed earlier. The token passing scheme, the stations are connected in a logical way, so that you can see the stations is connected and the token is passed. So it will be moving the token in a one directions so that it maintain the particular protocols methods. So this is in a ring form, so that's why it is passing. You can have a token in the form of a ring or in the form of a bus also you can try to do, but in a circular bus. So in the here the token actually represents the permission to send. So after sending a frame, each station must be waiting for the end station. That means if the station 1 is sending a token, that means every station is waiting for that token. So in this particular case, the problem with respect to the duplication of a token or a loss of a token is one of the drawback it is being seen in this particular order. So that's why if you try to see the throughput in this case, throughput is defined as S is equal to 1 divided by 1 plus A by N. So where A is nothing but your total propagation delay by total transmission delay, and N is nothing but a number of stations, and S is equal to 1 by A into 1 plus 1 by N for the case when A is greater than 1. So previous case was A is less than 1. So this is what we try to see in the case of a token passing. So we have seen the concept with respect to the control access protocol using reservations, polling and token passing. Now we go to the next, that is a channelizations protocol. Now channelizations is a very simple concept, is that actually in a channelizations protocols the available bandwidth of the link share, that is LLC, what we have studied in the data link layer, the link is shared in a time mode or a frequency mode or in a code mode with the multiple station. So if you see that one, this is a time versus frequency. So the frequency is being divided, and every every individual frequency is given to individual station for a given time. That means full bandwidth utilizations cannot be. So the if you say assume that you want to send a video and you need this much frame, so that is not possible. So you will be using for the audio, or you can send a video, but it will go in a very small time delay. It is assumed that this is a door, and you want to pass through this 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So this is 3 and 3 6 7. I assume that this 7 members it has to pass, then it is easy. But if it is say 12 member it has to pass, it is difficult. So if it is a 3 member it has to pass, then it is having a lot of sufficient bandwidth. So channel FDMA follows that particular practice. In the case of a TDMA, the whole frequency is given, but only for a small time. So every individual is given a small period. Whereas in the case of a CDMA, you use the whole FDMA and TDMA, but you don't divide anything, but you give in a different coding. So in the case of a FDMA, the frequency bandwidth is divided into equal band, and each station is allotted its own set of band. And here we try to provide a guard band so that there will not be any cross talk or a noise. In the case of a TDMA, we use the particular bandwidth in a shared time modes, so that the time frame, so that every station is given a certain time period. Here in this case there is an overhead with respect to the synchronizations of the stations. So we need to add a synchronizations bit in this case. In the case of a CDMA, only one channel is given, that is, the individual channel is given, and all transmissions, and in this case no divisions with respect to the bandwidth or a time being is particularly done. You assume that in a room there are number of people are talking, but if the number of people with a if they are talking with a different language, so automatically the individual people can able to understand. But when that means that individual peoples are individually coded. So that is what WIN stations. If a Chinese is there, if a Indian is there, if a Malayali is there, there is a North Indian is there, every people will be talking their own language, then there will not be any interference, because it's the language to language only it will catch. So it is just like a code. It is what we put it as a simple analogy to understand. So that is what it does in the case of a code divisions multiplexing. Next we are going to discuss on the logic link control. So what exactly the logic link control? As I have already stated, logic link control is a part of the data link layer, and this is the upper layer of the data link layer, and the bottom side is a MAC layer, which is the and the data link layer is the second layer of the open system interference interconnections, that is OSI reference model. So here when we try to see the data link logical link, that is what we shown here in the figure. The logical link, basically its concern is to manage the traffic, that is a flow and error control. That is what we do in this case, the flow and the error control. And the LLC is basically the supplier of the multiplexing, where the several network protocol has to operate simultaneously for a multi-point network. So that is what we do in this particular case. Whereas in the case of a medium access control, it is only to maintain the particular medium and how the particular medium has to access, in which mode it has to access, so that the data will not get lost. Whereas this is trying to create a linking methods, so that the multiple link or multiple flow can be carried out in an effective manner. So you can see that the flow and the flow and the error control, as well as the access of the medium, is being a part of the data link layer. So that is what we see in the case of a logical link control. Coming to the functionality of the logical link control, the primary functions of the LLC is for the multiplexing or a multiplex protocols over the MAC layers, while it does even the demultiplex for while it is receiving. So while transmitting, multiplex over the MAC layer, and demultiplex while receiving. That is the one part. Another is that it do the hope to hope flow and error control. That is from every node to node, every station to stations flow. Another next is that it allows the multi-point communication for a computer network, and every frame is given a certain sequence number, and that is being arranged in the case of a LLC. And in case the acknowledgement service is received, then the next data is being sent. So that's why it tracks the acknowledgement also. So that is what the LLC does and the MAC does separately. So this is what you can try to see in this particular figure. Network layer protocols on the top layer is there, where your logical IP is coming. Here is the your flow, the link flow is maintained. Here is the MAC, your physical layer is coming, and also as well as the access of the medium is being determined through the physical layer, either wired or wireless, it is being passed, and the reverse process in the receiver side. So this is sending side, this is a receiving side, this is a data link layer, it is being shown. So LLC, you can see it does the multiplexer and demultiplexer for the sender side, and a logical service also for a connection or a connectionless orient, whether you go for a TCP or a UDP protocols. And here in the MAC is that it do a broadcast media for a collisions solving CSMA CD or a CSMA CA, plus a framing and deframing is done, and also it do some checksum computation, so that if any frame error is there, it can able to detect that error. This is what we see in the case of LLC and MAC. Finally, we have come to the wireless LAN. Wireless LAN is IEEE 802.11 protocols that is being shown in the case of this particular figure. Now, under the IEEE 802.11 protocols, you can try to see the figure itself. It shows that all the application layer to physical layer, data link network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, application layer. In this one, data link layer, it is shown like this one, LLC and MAC, and the physical layer, it is being shown in the form of a wired and wireless. Wired is this thing but 802.3 Ethernet, and these are nothing but a wireless 802.11 onwards. So in this particular scenario, if you try to see this particular figure, so the 802.11 is a wireless standard and primarily designed over the existing Ethernet of 8.3 protocols, and this is a wireless standard which is being used. Now, if you actually look further this particular protocol for a easy understanding, you can try to see this architecture. In this architecture, you can see some figures. This is a systems where we are a network systems. You can consider as a distributed systems, and this distribution system is access to individual extended service set ESS. That is what we try to see, and inside this ESS we try and find a BSS that is being shown over here with respect to the basic service set, and inside this basic service set you can find that there is an AP, that is access point, and inside AP every station is being shown. It is like that is what we try to show you. It is just like you think that these three are a laptop. This laptop want to communicate with respect to each other, so it will be using a IEEE. You want to use a wireless to communicate. So how does the laptop wireless is communicating with another laptop? That laptop wireless signal will come to access point. From access point it is coming back to the another one. From this access point it coming to another one. So that's how the IEEE 802.11 try to communicate, and also based on the IPs. And so this is under the case with respect to BSS, and this BSS is communicating with another BSS in the another location or another room. That's how it will communicate. That's how the whole college communicate. That's how the further distributed system is going to communicate. So that is what I have shown over here. So here the station actually it comprises of equipments like a laptop, as termed as a laptop or a palm top, etc. So station consists of points, or you can say the station is basically defined as a wireless access point, that is WAP, or a AP is nothing but an access point, and another is nothing but a client. So when you say access point, so this is what we have shown over here. Client is nothing but a computer, laptop, or a smartphone, or even you can say a wireless printer, and then it is a part of a BSS, which is a basic service set to set a group of stations communicating at a physical layer level. And then a BSS can be have a two categories. One is the infrastructure BSS and another is the independent BSS. When you talk about infrastructure BSS, this is communicating with the other device through the access point, and if it is an independent BSS, then these devices communicate with the peer-to-peer basic on the ad hoc modes. So it is just like in the form of ad hoc mode, it will try to communicate, or it will be communicating using a independent BSS. Independent BSS means it will directly going as a peer-to-peer. And in the case of infrastructure, then it will be communicating with respect to the access point. So BSS will be communicating like this one. Extended BS, it is connecting all the BSS, and distributed BSS, it is connecting the access point of a ESS. So this is how this particular network is connected. One network is connecting like this one through the BSS. Another is BSS will be connecting with the another BSS. And ESS is the part of the which consists of all the BSS, and the DSS is the one which have a access point of the ESS. So these are the point with respect to this architecture. Now what are the advantage of this 802.11 wireless LAN is that in the case if you look across, the advantage is that you can use it for the home, office and other network places, and this wireless, in the wireless LAN you can have a scaling of a multiple systems you can add up to a certain limit, and you can move the wireless device to a different place, so it is a portable and it does not need a cable to connect, and installation and setup is much easier, and the equipment costs are not very expensive. So that is what we see the advantage part. The disadvantage part is that due to the radio wave communications, there are chance that the signal gets prone to the get to the noise, and more interference are likely to occur. Encryptions in this case of the informations need more care because sometimes it may also able to get break and hack also, and these informations are more prone to error. So that is another disadvantage is that. And wireless LAN actually requires a greater bandwidth because in the wired communications the bandwidth is high as compared to the wireless LAN. So that's why in the wireless LAN the flow of a data signal is speed is lesser as compared to the wired LAN, and WLAN are slower as compared to the wired LAN, as I have stated that it is the disadvantage of the wireless LAN systems. So if we find the wireless LAN system, even if it is disadvantage, it is being considered as one of the useful device in every household or any office systems. So with this we come to the end of our discussions with respect to the module 2. Thank you.